The moment you step into a room, the game has already begun. Before you speak, before you take your seat, before you even decide how you want to be perceived, people are reading you. They scan your face, gauge your posture, measure the weight of your tone, interpret the spaces between your words. They do this without thinking, driven by fear, curiosity, ambition, or insecurity. For most, it's instinct. For Machiavelli, it was an art, one practiced with precision, purpose, and surgical intent. He understood a truth most never realize. Power isn't only about what you say or what you do. It's about how quickly you can see through others and how you use that insight before they realize they've been seen. To manipulate, you must first understand. To protect yourself, you must predict. To dominate, you must read them before their mask ever cracks. Machiavelli knew the surface is never the truth. Every smile can be a performance. Every handshake can hide a threat. Every compliment can be a calculated test. And so he built not guesses, but tactics. Psychological weapons designed to strip away the act and reveal the architecture of a person's mind. Because here is the harsh reality. In politics, in business, in relationships, by the time someone shows you their true colors, it's already too late. The damage is done, the move has been made, and the advantage is lost. That is why the most dangerous minds read people instantly, without the other person realizing it. What follows are not abstract theories or vague read-the-room advice. These are 14 sharpened, battle-tested psychological tactics that will let you decode anyone's character, motives, and hidden weaknesses almost instantly. Some will expose them when they think they're safe. Some will push them to reveal themselves under pressure. And the last few will turn the tables entirely, where you are no longer chasing answers but provoking them to come to you. Once you understand these tactics, you'll see that reading people isn't about curiosity. It's about control. And in a world where power often belongs to the one who sees first, that control can decide everything. Tactic 1. Watch how they treat the invisible. Forget how they treat you. That's the easiest part for them to fake. The real truth is hidden in how they treat the ones they believe don't matter. The waiter, the intern, the cleaner, the person with no visible power. Machiavelli understood that when people feel there is nothing to gain, they drop the performance. This is when the cracks in their character appear. A person who is genuinely respectful will treat the powerless with the same dignity they show to equals or superiors. The corrupt, however, reveal themselves quickly, mocking, dismissing, or exploiting those beneath them. Why does this matter? Because how they treat the powerless is how they will treat you the moment your perceived value drops. Respect toward equals can be strategic. Respect toward the invisible is truth. When you're observing someone for the first time, don't just watch their interaction with you. Watch the micro gestures they use with others they believe are beneath them. Do they make eye contact? Do they listen? Do they acknowledge their existence at all? These small cues tell you whether their civility is a mask or a principle. Tactic 2. Silence them. Insecurity thrives in noise. People fill silences not because they love speaking, but because they fear being seen without distraction. If you want to read someone quickly, speak less than they do. Answer briefly. Pause longer than expected, and let the weight of the silence grow. Silence is not absence, it's pressure. It forces the other person to fill the space, and in doing so, they begin to reveal themselves. Within moments, they might overshare, try to impress, betray their fears, or expose their motives. Machiavelli used this to his advantage. By making silence louder than their words, he could watch which truth spilled out first. The key is controlled stillness, maintaining a calm, neutral expression while your lack of reaction pushes them off script. You'll learn more in 2 minutes of their unguarded rambling than in an hour of rehearsed conversation. Tactic 3. Offer them nothing. One of Machiavelli's most brutal yet revealing tactics was to give them nothing. No approval, no affection, no benefit, not even a hint of personal investment. just your presence, detached and unreadable. People reveal their core programming when there's nothing to extract. Do they grow cold? Then their warmth was transactional. Do they try harder? They are driven by insecurity and a need for validation. Do they remain steady? They have emotional control, and that makes them dangerous in a different way. This tactic exposes dependency. Most people don't realize how much their behavior changes when they're deprived of feedback or reward. By offering nothing, you remove the game they're used to playing and see who they are when the scoreboard is gone. Tactic 4. Interrupt their control pattern. Some people live behind a script. They've rehearsed their charm, their vulnerability, even their honesty to manage how others perceive them. These are the hardest people to read because they rarely step outside the persona they've perfected. Machiavelli knew the only way to see the truth behind the script was to break it. How? Ask a question they couldn't have prepared for. Interrupt their joke with deliberate silence. Respond to flattery with suspicion instead of gratitude. Change the subject abruptly when they are building momentum. When the rhythm they control is disrupted, they stumble, and in that stumble you see who they really are. For example, a practiced charmer might lose their warmth when caught off guard. A self-proclaimed open book might become defensive when you question their motives. By breaking their pattern, you strip away the environment they've designed for themselves and force them to operate without the safety of a script. These 4 tactics are not about confrontation. They're about subtle disruption and observation. In everyday interactions, they work quickly and invisibly, revealing more than any direct interrogation could. Once you've mastered them, you'll start to notice something unsettling. Most people's real selves are not hidden deep. They're just buried under the thinnest layer of performance, waiting for the smallest crack to show through. Tactic 5. Test loyalty with small losses. Never wait for a major betrayal to discover where someone's loyalty truly lies. Machiavelli understood that loyalty isn't proven when people are winning. It's revealed when they feel denied. So engineer the test yourself. Say no to a small request. Decline a favor they assumed you'd grant. Withhold your attention for a short time, then watch closely. Do they remain respectful, understanding that the denial is situational? Or do they begin to criticize you subtly, distance themselves, or spread whispers behind your back? The smallest no often uncovers the largest truth. This works because many people don't consciously track their loyalty. They only realize the limits of it when they feel slighted. A Machiavellian mind uses this to measure the emotional durability of an alliance. If they crumble under a minor refusal, they will not withstand real pressure. Tactic 6. Measure their focus, not their words. People can lie with their mouths, but their focus tells the truth. While they speak, observe what they pay attention to. Do their eyes drift toward those with more influence in the room? They crave status. Do they ignore those with no leverage? They only respect advantage. Do they glance at their phone mid-conversation? You are a placeholder, not a priority. Even more revealing, do they unconsciously mimic your expressions and body language? That means they are trying to gain favor, consciously or not. Machiavelli didn't just listen to words. He tracked attention like a hunter tracks movement. Because attention is investment. Where they place it reveals what they value, what they fear losing, and what they will fight to keep. Tactic 7. Mention a fictional weakness. Reveal a weakness that isn't real but sounds plausible. Something like, I tend to overthink things, or I used to be too trusting, or I'm not great at confrontation. Then watch what they do with that information. If they weaponize it later, mocking you, using it to undermine you, or subtly pressing that button, they are opportunistic and dangerous when given leverage. If they ignore it, they are either respectful or cautious. And if they respond by revealing a real weakness of their own, they are seeking connection and trust. This tactic is about safe testing. You give them a false vulnerability, one that costs you nothing, and see how they treat it. In the Machiavellian playbook, this is like sending a decoy into battle. You never risk your real position. Tactic 8. Make them wait. There is no faster way to gauge someone's sense of entitlement than to delay your response. Text them back later than expected. Be vague about scheduling. Take longer than usual to fulfill something they want. The entitled will panic, guilt trip, or turn passive-aggressive. The patient will adapt and remain steady. Machiavelli valued resilience as much as loyalty because impatience is a form of instability. And unstable allies become liabilities when pressure rises. Time is a magnifying glass for temperament. Some people can fake charm and composure in the short term, but over time, cracks appear. Irritation, frustration, even open hostility. The longer you stretch the silence, the more their true operating system surfaces. These 4 tactics, testing loyalty, tracking focus, baiting with fictional weakness, and imposing delays, are designed to push gently, not strike hard. You're not trying to provoke open conflict. You're creating subtle stress points, the kind that expose who someone is when the room is no longer warm, when the conversation no longer flatters them, and when the situation no longer moves at their preferred pace. Once mastered, these tests reveal something critical. You don't need months or years to know someone's loyalty, priorities, or patience. With the right pressure in the right place, it can take minutes. Tactic 9. See who they copy. Every person imitates someone, whether they admit it or not. It might be their tone, their style, the way they speak, or even the words they choose. Machiavelli understood that imitation is a mirror of ambition. People copy who they secretly wish to become. If they mimic the powerful, they crave control. If they mimic the popular, they seek validation and visibility. If they mimic the virtuous, they hunger for moral superiority. This matters because ambition is a compass. It tells you what path they're on and what they might sacrifice to get there. To spot it, watch their unconscious alignment. Who do they quote? Whose opinions do they echo without challenge? Who do they study when they think no one's watching? Once you know their chosen role model, you also know the bait that can lure them, or the threat that can unnerve them. Tactic 10. Trigger envy and watch the flicker. Envy is the most dangerous emotional signal because it often precedes sabotage. But unlike anger or jealousy, envy rarely announces itself, it flickers. A subtle tightening of the smile, an immediate topic change, a quick downplay of your achievement. Machiavelli's method was simple. Mention something that elevates you. A recent success, an exclusive opportunity, a compliment from someone they admire, and watch their face. If the admiration feels forced, if the encouragement is too quick or too shallow, envy has been triggered. This is not about bragging. It's about controlled stimulus. You want to see if your success registers as a shared celebration or as a threat to their self-image. Those who cannot celebrate you will, in time, seek to undermine you. And once you've seen that flicker, you can choose whether to confront it, neutralize it, or use it as leverage. Tactic 11. Ask what they hate. Forget asking what people love. It's easy to fake admiration. Instead, ask, what kind of people do you dislike? Or what behavior do you hate in others? The answer is rarely about others, it's a confession. People often project their own suppressed traits onto what they despise. The one who claims to hate arrogance may quietly crave dominance. The one who condemns dishonesty may be skilled at bending the truth. The one who criticizes weakness may be terrified of appearing weak themselves. Machiavelli called this judgment as confession. Hatred is revealing because it bypasses the social polish we apply to likes and loves. It exposes what they fear, what they hide, and what they judge in themselves. Once you know what a person hates, you know the pressure point that will trigger their strongest reactions. Tactic 12. Watch what breaks their eye contact. Direct eye contact is a form of power. The moment it breaks, it's usually because something struck too close to the truth. Mention certain topics: money, status, shame, past failures, power dynamics, and watch their eyes. Do they flicker away? Shift rapidly? Drop to the floor? Machiavelli believed the eyes are not just the window to the soul, but the exit door of suppressed emotion. When a person's gaze retreats, it's often because their internal guard has been pierced, even if only for a second. The key is precision. Introduce topics casually, as if in passing. The less deliberate your delivery, the more genuine their reaction will be. You're not interrogating. You're mapping the terrain of their discomfort. Once you know where their gaze flees, you've found the truths they guard most fiercely. The power of the final 4 passive tactics. Tactics 9 through 12 are different from the earlier ones. The first 8 break surface patterns. These 4 reach deeper, pulling at the roots: ambition, envy, projection, and guarded truths. Together, they give you a psychological X-ray of the person in front of you. When combined with the earlier tactics, you've built a multi-layered framework. You've seen how they act without incentive. You've tested how they handle denial and delay. And now, you've uncovered what drives them forward, and what they fear will be exposed. By the time you've mastered these 12 passive tactics, you won't just get a sense of someone. You'll have a working profile that tells you who they are, what they want, where they're weak, and how they'll respond under different pressures. Passive reading will show you who someone is when they think they are unobserved. Active provocation, however, will reveal who they are when they are drawn into your frame. Machiavelli understood that the sharpest information does not always come from watching. It comes from setting the stage and letting the other person step into the trap willingly. Tactic 13. Become the mirror they cannot look away from. Most people move through life wearing a mask, a performance stitched together from charm, curated vulnerability, or strategic confidence. Machiavelli discovered that when you mirror a person's tone, posture, or language back to them, subtly, gradually, without parody, you trigger an unconscious self-recognition. They see themselves in you, and in that reflection, their instincts react. If you mirror their casual tone and they suddenly become more intense, they're attempting to regain dominance. If you mirror their confidence and they pull back, uncertainty is cracking their facade. If you mirror their insecurity and they respond with superiority or mockery, you've exposed the defense mechanism that shields their ego. This tactic works because the human mind is calibrated to notice discrepancies in its own projection. When someone sees their own energy returned, they either align with it authentically, or they try to shift it to reassert control. The more they shift, the more they were performing in the first place. By mirroring, you are not chasing the truth, you are forcing it to surface. Tactic 14. Disarm with respect, then strike with the real question. The average person expects judgment. They arrive in conversation armored, with excuses ready, filters engaged, stories rehearsed. Machiavelli's genius was to lower this guard before the decisive strike, not with force, but with unexpected respect. Begin by complimenting something they pride themselves on: their intelligence, their achievements, their insight. Acknowledge their perspective, even if you don't fully agree. Why? Because psychological safety makes people feel unthreatened. And when they feel safe, they speak freely. But the respect is not the goal. It's the opening. Once their guard is down, you insert the surgical question, the one that bypasses their armor and touches the raw nerve. You clearly think things through. What's the biggest fear behind your decisions? You seem incredibly self-assured. When did you first learn how to fake that confidence? You're good at reading people. How do you know when someone's reading you? Respect creates the illusion of control. The question takes it away. People are far more honest when they feel admired because they don't feel the need to protect themselves from you. This honesty is rarely accidental. It's the result of engineering the emotional state in which truth spills without resistance. Why these two tactics are in a league of their own. The first 12 tactics are about observing reality as it exists. These two are about shaping the conditions so that reality reveals itself on your terms. By becoming the mirror, you create friction between a person's mask and their instincts. By disarming with respect, you create a vacuum of defense that you fill with a question too sharp to dodge. Machiavelli did not waste time chasing answers. He built situations where the answers had to come to him. This is a fundamental shift from being a passive observer to an active architect of truth. Once you can engineer the conditions in which people unmask themselves, you are no longer just reading them. You are controlling the stage they perform on. If the passive layer is about seeing, the active layer is about revealing. And once you have both, you don't just know what someone shows. You know what they hide and how to make them hand it to you without realizing they've done it. By now, you can read people with precision. You know their ambitions, their insecurities, their loyalty thresholds, their focus points, their comfort zones, and their pressure points. But Machiavelli's mastery didn't stop at perception, because perception alone is not power. Power begins when you turn that knowledge into influence, guiding someone's actions without them realizing the strings are in your hands. Most people try to influence through persuasion, logic, sincerity, even emotional appeal. Machiavelli was not interested in being understood. He was interested in being obeyed, subtly, silently, consistently. And the first rule of influencing someone without their awareness is to make them believe every move is their own idea. Mirror desire, then redirect. Once you know what someone wants, status, attention, security, you don't confront it. You reflect it back to them. Show the ambitious that you admire their drive, acknowledge the insecure for their effort, respect the dominant for their control. This lowers their guard, creating an emotional mirror where they feel seen and validated. Once they feel safe in your reflection, you link their desire to your objective. If they want recognition, show them how aligning with your plan will make them more visible. If they want influence, frame your proposal as the most efficient way for them to gain control. If they want security, position your path as the safest route forward. They will follow because they believe they are following themselves. Strategic vulnerability. People open up when they feel they are in the superior position. Machiavelli would offer a small, controlled flaw, something believable but harmless. I never fully trust my instincts on first impressions. Sometimes I get too absorbed in my work. I'm not as good at managing people as you are. The result? They feel superior, an ego boost. They feel helpful, an emotional investment. They feel trusted, false intimacy. And in that state, they begin to reveal truths they would normally guard. The mind that feels safe talks freely. The mind that feels superior talks truthfully. The half-secret exchange. Trust flows fastest when it feels reciprocal. Machiavelli would share a partial truth, a confession that seemed raw but carried no real risk. I had to learn the hard way not to rely on people I thought I could trust. I was underestimated until I stopped being nice. They think you've been vulnerable, so they respond in kind. Except their vulnerability is real. You gave them a puzzle piece, they hand you the whole map. Use their self-definition. One of the most potent manipulations is letting people define themselves, then using that definition to steer them. If they say, "I value loyalty above all," you can later frame a request as an act of loyalty. If they say, "I hate inefficiency," you can present your plan as the efficient choice. They won't resist because they're not complying with you, they're staying true to themselves. Build a reputation they must uphold. Give them a public identity to protect. You're known for keeping your word. People respect you because you don't play petty politics. Now, if they act against that definition, they risk looking inconsistent or weak. The fear of loss of face, loss of credibility keeps them in character, enforcing the behavior you installed. Leak for perception control. Sometimes you don't influence directly. You just let the right thing slip. A story that hints at your sharp judgment. A casual remark that suggests your standards are high. People adjust themselves based on what they think they've discovered about you. And when they think they've figured you out, they stop questioning you. Predictability in them means control for you. Let them win early. Give them harmless victories at the start. Let them feel they've influenced the outcome. Feed their ego with small wins while engineering the larger result to benefit you. People protect what they think they built, defend what they believe was their idea, and stay loyal when they feel important, even when they are serving your agenda. The strategic conversion is where reading turns into steering. You're no longer a spectator decoding patterns. You're the architect shaping them. And the most refined form of this power is invisible. They follow your path, protect your interests, and never realize the direction was yours all along. Once you can read and steer people, Machiavelli's next step was classification. He didn't use labels aloud. Labels make people defensive. He kept them silent, using them as private maps for handling each personality with precision. The goal wasn't to define them for others, but to know how to move around and through them. The masked pleaser thrives on approval, crumbles when denied it. They can be guided with praise, but turn resentful when it's withheld. Always give just enough validation to keep them in orbit, never so much they feel secure enough to challenge you. The silent climber appears loyal but watches for power vacuums. They never move until the timing is perfect. Keep them close enough to monitor, far enough that they can't see your whole game. Respect their patience, it's a weapon. The fragile genius, brilliant but emotionally unstable. Their value lies in their ideas, but they can be self-destructive if mishandled. Protect their ego when you need their creativity. Apply pressure when you need them to retreat. The loud defender over-explains, overreacts, and constantly justifies themselves, almost always hiding guilt or deep insecurity. They reveal themselves in their need to control the narrative. Let them talk. They'll hand you the evidence. The strategic chameleon, new, shifts persona based on the environment, often to blend with whoever holds the most influence. Hard to pin down, but their pattern emerges over time. They always adapt toward the winning side. The key is to make sure you are always that side. The covert saboteur, new, operates quietly, planting seeds of doubt or misinformation. Rarely confronts directly, preferring to let others do the damage for them. Neutralize by isolating their influence channels, cut their audience, and you cut their power. Archetypes are not boxes, they are lenses. People can shift under pressure, but their default mode emerges when the stakes rise. When you know the type you're dealing with, you can choose whether to feed their strength, exploit their weakness, or simply move them off the board entirely. The sharper your ability to read people, the greater the temptation to use it purely for gain. This is the shadow side of high perception. When you see through everyone, it's easy to believe you stand above them all. From that vantage point, empathy feels optional. People turn into pieces on a board and manipulation becomes a sport. Machiavelli understood this danger. The same skills that can protect you, win negotiations, and secure alliances can also hollow out your humanity if used without restraint. Influence without purpose is just domination. And domination without restraint eventually breeds revolt. The ethical threshold lies in intent. Ask yourself, am I using this insight to protect, to build, to stabilize? Or am I using it to weaken, to exploit, to destroy? This is not about moral purity. Machiavellian strategy is inherently pragmatic. But even the most pragmatic player knows that scorched earth tactics leave nothing to rule over. Burning bridges for short-term advantage often leaves you isolated when you most need allies. Strategic perception works best when combined with selective restraint. Sometimes the most powerful move is not to exploit a weakness you've uncovered, but to keep it in reserve. It becomes a silent advantage, a card unplayed, one that keeps you in control without triggering unnecessary resistance. True mastery is measured not by how well you can break someone down, but by how precisely you decide when not to. Power, like a blade, is most dangerous when wielded with discipline. At the highest level, the game no longer feels like a game. The mechanics, the tactics, the tests, the calibrations fade into instinct. You walk into a room and information flows to you without effort. Who is insecure, who is performing, who is quietly powerful, and who is watching you as closely as you're watching them. You no longer think, how do I read this person? You simply do. You no longer ask, where is the opening? You sense it in their posture, in the half-second delay before they answer, in the way their eyes shift when certain words are spoken. It's not analysis, it's recognition. This is where perception becomes presence. You are no longer chasing the truth or forcing it into the light. You stand in the center of it, letting others reveal themselves around you. Some will try to hide, some will try to impress, some will try to test you. It no longer matters because their moves are written before they make them. And yet in this state, the greatest danger is not from them. It's from you. The temptation to overreach, to manipulate for the thrill, to pull every string simply because you can. The disciplined mind resists this. It knows that the most enduring influence is the influence that feels like freedom to the one being guided. Machiavelli's highest art was not control. It was invisible control. The kind where your presence alone changes the room, not because you demand obedience, but because people cannot help but align themselves to you. This is the instinctive state of high-level reading, when every word, every glance, every silence becomes part of a conversation they don't realize they're having, until it's already over and you've won.